APG Jamie here, and today we're going to take those leftover pages from the painty papers with golden dots. Y'all remember, I'll try to link in the upper right hand corner and in the description box below the video. Click on the word show more to see more information. Anywho, we're going to make some tags. Now these aren't just going to be just any tags. They're going to be fancy tags, okay? We got some die cutting going on. We're cutting out like some holes. And you can probably use whatever kind of die shape you want to make, okay? Probably. Alright, now this is inspired by someone, hang on, let me look up her name, hang on, Nikki, okay, that's who it is. This is inspired by Nikki, and there'll be a link to her in the description box below, and a link to her channel in the right hand corner, okay. So I've got these dies and their little frame things or shapes or whatever, labels, whatever, and I'm going to cut them out of the centerpiece of the tag shape that we'd cut, and I think that's like 3 by 6.5 inch tag I made, y'all. Just saying, I think that's about. So we've cut it out of the center of the tag. I'm cutting a black frame for the outside, because I in my head I want to use it on the outside. Okay, you saw the thumbnails. I used it on the outside, and I also want a reinforcing frame on the inside, the underneath side, which will make more sense in a minute. See, I got it layered out. Alright, it's going to make more sense in a minute. So here's our little white frame, and that's just some scrap cardstock over there at my die cutting station. Okay, a fancy studio, y'all. Stations, you know, it's places where I set up different stations. So we're gluing the white one on the inside of our fancy painty card. You can use regular scrap paper or any other, you know, card based papery stuff. Now I'm doing an even number of holes. I don't know why it wouldn't work with an odd number of holes. I just, for whatever reason, am doing even numbers. Okay, and I'm marking on the back. I'm just kind of trying to evenly space them, sorta, more or less. Doesn't have to be precise or exact. I'm using this teeny tiny hole punch. I think that's like a 1/16 hole punch, or I don't know what size hole punch is. Y'all, it's tiny, okay? If you don't have a tiny hole punch like that, you can use a pokey tool, because I'm going to be using a needle and crochet cotton thread. So, you know, whatever you need to do to poke your little holes. Little teeny tiny holes, y'all. And let's see, we're doing that. Some parts of this video are at real speed, y'all. A lot of it is at real speed. So essentially I'm only going to show you one tag, even though I made, I don't know how many I made, 6 or 7 or 20, I don't know how many, a couple. And I'm going to use the black because I wanted to use black thread. Use whatever color you have. Now, traditionally with dream catchers, they are done on a hoop. And back in the 80s, I did lots of them. I actually made them and sold them. I made so many of them. And we used leather on that as well. And it was a lot of fun. It was quite good entertainment for us in the 80s, and my Cub Scouts, I believe, made them as well. That was in the 90s. So anyway, we'd take a ring, you know, one of those metal rings that you get from the Walmarts, because that's probably where they came from, and we'd wrap our leather all around there, and then we would take our sinew, or in my case, we used dental floss, because that's what we had, okay, and we would wrap that as opposed to putting it through the holes on this little piece of card. And I'm mostly treating this the same. This was my first attempt and try. I'm very happy with the outcome. Now I am securing my thread on the back part of the tag with glue and some tape. I found out after this first one that the black of the thread could be shadowed, seen as a shadow through the back of the tag because we cover that up. Anyway, so later on I figure out a way to glue and tape the thread back there so that it's not quite so visible later. Okay, now I pull my thread to the top, and I'm now dropped the needle back through the center, dropping the needle through the center and pulling it up through the next hole. So that sounded funny. Sounded like somebody knocked something around out on the breezeway. Oh, there she is. It was Molly. So this is mostly real time, y'all, and it seems pretty slow, but I'm hoping y'all will be able to catch the little nuances that I can't readily explain with words. Okay, because y'all know my words escape me sometimes. So we're just looping, dropping the needle in the middle, coming up from the back side, so that we're kind of just wrapping it around through the hole. Okay, now I know it looks unusual. That's the way to, and I recommend y'all going over to Nikki's link in the description box below. Should take you directly to the specific video, and the link in the upper right hand corner will be to her channel, because they won't let me link to direct videos on other people's channels, you know, whoever they are. So now we're back to the beginning. I'm dropping down to the middle, to the back side, and I'm coming up through the thread this time instead of the hole. Later on I figure out a trick that Nikki probably said to do, but you know, I didn't go back and rewatch the video because, you know, I'm that way, hard-headed and stubborn. It's that Irish blood in me. Anywho, so we went back to the middle and we're coming up through the next thread. So the first round was looping through the punched holes. Now we're going to loop through each thread. Okay, so this is actually round 2. I do get mixed up on what number rounds I'm on. Not that it necessarily matters. Not really. Now trying to catch under the thread and not through the thread, because you don't want to split the thread. I am using a needle, and it does have a point on it, and you have to be careful. You need to be careful about not putting your needle through the thread, but rather under the thread. And I could have cut portions of this out, but why? Now I'm holding it taut. I'm holding the thread taut, not tight. You don't want to pull it, okay? Because we're working with paper here. All that clickety-clackety sound y'all hear are the dogs going in and out the studio door. Just because they have their own door, and they're like, I like my door and I can go in and out because I'm a little kid. So as I was saying, I'm holding it taut, not pulling it tight, just taut. Excuse me, y'all. So that's what we're doing, ad nauseum, repeatedly, something like that. So down through the center hole, up through the thread. As you can see, it looks sort of spider webby. Not a spider involved. All right. Now, dream catchers are an American Indian thing, or at least when I studied them, when we was learning about them and doing them in the 80s, and then again in the 90s with my Cub Scouts. The purpose is to that bad dreams get caught and they can't find their way through the web of threads, whereas good dreams are good and slick and they just fly right through the little webs. Okay, so they catch your bad dreams and keeps you from having bad dreams. Just saying. Now, at one point back in the 80s or the 90s, I don't remember, whichever, because, you know, they're almost the same thing now. I identify with the age of 49. So I'm holding it taut. And I'm trying to show you I'm going into the hole. And then I think, oh, well, let's just put this on a black paper down there and you can see more butter. Surely you can, but you can't. So, and I didn't know that till the editing process, and it was a done deal by then. So, holding it taut, because now we're on round 2 and I'm coming up. Now you're coming up in the last thread round you made. Does that make sense? Yes. So anyway, at one point I'd heard that true dream catchers, okay, this is somebody being fancy, true dream catchers, the actual hole in the dream catcher, the center hole is actually in the center of the dream catcher. I, however, am not of that school of thought. I think your center hole, your final hole, ends up being where it ends up being. Okay? Okay. I'm no spider. I ain't no spider, and I can't make no spider web, but I can make an artistic spider web thing out of thread, and that's what I'm doing. Okay. So this is technically our 3rd round, and I'm going into the last round of thread, holes, spots. I'm holding it taut. And at some point I start making a knot because I'm like, my threads aren't staying where I want them to stay. And because this is on cardstock and not a metal ring like I used to work on in the good olden days. In the olden days, when you're working on a solid ring, you can pull it tight. All right? But on the paper, the cardstock, you can't, because then your cardstock's going to start bubbling and warping, and you don't want that. Okay? You want it to be flat. So I start doing this weird little knot thing, and Nikki, it feels like in my head, it feels like Nikki said to tie a knot. Okay, but I only watched the video the one time, and I'm like, I love that, and that's such a good idea. And how come I didn't think about making a dream catcher on paper? Because I used to make them all the time. I did. I made them all the time. I sold dozens and dozens of them, y'all. A couple dozens of them. So at some point, I'm gonna start making a knot. And by the time I get to my second dream catcher, which you will not see me make because I'm only making the one because it's in real time, y'all. I started, when I started going to the thread, I just started making a knot each time so that the thread I'm sewing onto the last round will stay where I want it to. If you've never made dream catchers before, I suggest you practice on a faux one, on something, so that you can start to get the hang of it, because it does take a little bit to get the hang of it. Once you get the hang of it, you're golden and you can just go to town, y'all. And I'm still holding it taut, not tight. Even though I'm putting the knots in there now, I'm holding it taut and not tight. Kind of hoping y'all can kind of see. And Nikki's video may show this more butter, and I do recommend you watch Nikki's video. Hey, Nikki! So, any hoodles, I started out with a lot of thread. How much thread? I don't know. A lot. Okay? Because I did not want to run out of thread and have to tie 2 pieces together to get all the way to the end. So I started out with a lot. Just a hint. Now, what size is that hole? I don't know. It looks like it's I don't know, like an 1.5 inch, 2 inch die diameter. I don't know. And I do have a shape die, so you could do whatever shape you wanted, probably. Pretty sure about that. I did stick with sort of roundish shapes, but I don't know why you couldn't use a heart or flower either, for that matter. But I don't know. I've not done that. Y'all experiment on that. Y'all do more experimenting. And so there we go. Now, also, about way back in the day, I had heard that and I did put beads on my dream catchers in the 90s because I thought it just fancied it up. I did not keep one just for the center. I put dispersed beads throughout the whole weaving process, because you are essentially weaving thread, y'all. Now in this case, I've put a bead in the center, what I have designated to be the center, and you don't have to do that. If you want to, you can. If you want to put one in the center, put one in the center. If you want to disperse them throughout the little weavings, you can. And I would stick with the small. If you're doing a small scale like this, I would stick with a smaller sized bead or embellishment thing. Also, on the original ones that I did, and the original American Indian dream catchers always had flowy fringe off the bottom of them so that it would catch the wind and all that stuff and look pretty. And I chose not to put any of the fringy on the bottom because it's a tag, so I've kind of got the fringe on the top, you know, sort of. Now, I have since thought about it. If you have trim, like a fringe trim for sewing on pillows or whatnot, you could probably figure out a way to put that on these, all right? And have your fringe on there, in which case you could tie even more beads down there if you wanted to. I mean, you know, there's a whole lot of room for inspiration on this one, y'all. Just saying. So we're going around each circle, and you know, as you can see, by this time I'm tying the knot, and as you can also see, we are closing up that inner opening, all right? Each round you close it up just a wee bit more. Now I say wait at least till your fourth round to start deleting openings, okay? Because your openings are going to need to get smaller, so you need to drop one every once in a while. Now where you drop that one, I don't know. Where do you feel like dropping it? And so I'm sure by this time on this round I am skipping like the first one where I start dropping the loops. I will skip 2 on that round. The next round I will skip 2 again and 2 again until I get down to the center, or what I deem to be the center. Now, yeah, if you did it however perfectly you could do it, I'm sure you could end up with a center hole, just like in a spider web, okay? Now, speaking of spiders, they are the story weavers of folklore, all right? And might I also say, spiders kill little bugs like roaches and stuff like that when they're little. So spiders is not a bad thing, unless they're big giant ones that are as big as a quarter. Then they got to go live somewhere else. Just saying. I know, real-time videos. Some of y'all want them. And this is, I think we go real-time, not quite the whole rest of the show, y'all, but a lot. And these made me so happy. And my husband's like, oh, I like these, Jamie. And I'm like, oh, thank you, husband. So as you can see, as you need to release more thread from the eye of the needle, then you just do so. And you need to be careful because sometimes it gets tangled up because that's the nature of thread. And we're just continuing on. Wash, rinse, repeat. But I did want to show you the whole thing. Real time. Not even sped up. None. Not even half a time sped up. Can you tell? Oh. And each tag probably took about 15-20 minutes to do this sewing stuff. I don't know. Y'all should have been watching the clock. I don't know how long it's taken. This is definitely a labor of love, but I'm very happy with the outcome. You don't have to do this and make tags out of it. You could do this and make a card front. Okay, my phone's been ringing off and on. That's why you see these little stops and starts. So anyway, you could do this for a card front. That would be really fun, or not. Depends on what you want to do. Now, I could not do too many of them on the same day, as you know, that holding pencils and the tiny little needle and stuff like that in my hand for too much gives me the pains in my hands and arms and junk like that. So I think I made one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Yeah, like that for a few days. So labor of love, because I love them. They make me happy. Now we're getting pretty close, and technically you could call it done at just about any time. So probably, but I want to go all the way to a little bitty tiny center. Mostly, sort of. If you want to speed your video up, I invite you to do so. If you want to turn the sound off so you don't hear me yammering, I invite you to do so. Otherwise, I appreciate you hanging in there with me. Now, I will show how, or try to show you how I finish off, because now you've got this big old long thread in the center. It's like, what do you do with it? If you just tie it in a knot, it's, you know, it's just going to be there and look not so nice. So, remember, we're dropping our needle into the center, and then we're coming back up through our next thread. Okay. Are we about done? Because that would be a really good center right there. Just saying. Did I leave it at that? No, I want it smaller. I forgot what I was saying when I so rudely interrupted myself. As you can see, it's with the knot. I must have mistied it. With the knot thing, it's staying more precise on the last thread where I want it to, so that it comes out and looks spidey webby. Just saying. And silence. Are we there yet? Is that the center? Are we calling that the center? It's still got just a little wobbly because I think I pulled it just a little too tight. So on that first round, leave it just a wee bit loose. Not loosey-goosey, but just like, yeah, that's in there kind of thing. And practiced at least once before you try to do an actual piece, let's say. Okay, we're calling that center. I think we're calling that center, and now I'm getting out my little beads. And because all of them are the gold, they have the gold toppings on these papers, I decided I would just use gold. Okay? I know, just so unique that way. Will that one work? I hope that'll work. Hopefully your bead will fit onto your needle and thread. That can be an issue, just saying. That can be an issue. So, now I need to secure the bead, and I'm going to go back down through the center, up through one of the other thread holes, and we're going to tie the same kind of little weird slip knot kind of thing once I can get it looped around there so I can see. And I'm trying to hold it taut so that my bead stays pretty centered. A couple times on a couple of them that center bead got a little loose, but there we go. Okay, so there we are. Now I'm going to weave my thread back through the bead the opposite direction, because it's tied off, so it should be okay. Should be fine. Should be. And then I'm going to go down through one of the holes and then back up on another side, leaving a thread in between so that it doesn't just pull all the way through. And I'm going to weave myself to the edge. It does make that part of the web just a wee bit thicker. You kind of have to look closer to see that it's a wee bit thicker of a thread, but it is. So you're wanting that to be kind of invisible, because you're making your way back to the outside edge. I don't know how spiders tie off their threads, but I guess the spider pig does what a spider pig does. So, and this is kind of a longer video, y'all, as you may already know. So there. Now I'm back to the edge and I'm dropping the needle back through that hole right there. And we're going to come around to the back any day and tie a knot-ish of sorts. I should have kept my thread longer. It would have been easier to have tied the knot, but I didn't, so there we go. Me at my best. Almost at my best. Best is enough. So we're going to tie a knot or two, I don't know. And we don't want it to pop back through that hole. So I don't know how many knots I tied. And then we're going to add glue, and we'll add a little piece of tape again. And that's just whatever clear tape, or you could probably use washi tape or just glue even, because we will be putting a back on this piece. Alright? Now if you were doing a card front, you wouldn't need to put a back on it. You would just stick it down on a mat and that would be your back. Okay? But because this is a tag, I kind of need a pretty back. Kind of. One of them I get backwards in it, but it's okay. It's alright. Because I'm using a file folder, you know, the manila file folders. I have some of those scraps around. So I decided I was just going to use those as the back, because I have them, and why not? Otherwise you can just use pretty cardstock if you want to. If you want to, it's your piece. I mean, you know, do what you want to. So there's our back. Not really attractive, but like I said, we're going to cover it up. And that's the back. Now, after this, I decided the best way to cut your back to fit better is to leave it bigger, taller and wider, and to die cut the center cutout at the same time as you cut your top piece. Just saying. That's what I found to be the best. But of course I'm showing you the hard way. Guesstimating. And it worked it okay. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't the best it could have been. So there we go. Now we're going to glue our top to the back or the back to the top, whichever. I don't know. I don't remember which side I put the glue on. You can put it on the back part. I'm using my favorite original tacky glue. Otherwise I was using the art glitter glue to hold our string down, and that works pretty good. So we get all our glues on there, and we're going to smoosh it out with a key card, plastic card, debit card. Well, no, don't use your debit card. Old gift card, a room key card, plastic card, by whatever name you call it. Squeegee even. Okay. But you want to make sure you get all your edges pretty good. Get that picked up. And flip that glued page over and flip-flop that all around, get glue everywhere. Goodness gracious. Get your fancy front and then line it up as best as you can and start smooshing it down. As you can see, it's slightly off, but that's okay. That is perfectly okay. That's why I say make your back piece, your back cover, slightly bigger than the front, okay? Because we're going 3 by 6.5, so I would make that 3.5 by 7. And in that way you can trim it off and it'll be fine, okay? Trimming it off now. I also took these and put them between baking parchment paper and pressed them in a book overnight so that they would be good and married and all happy, and smash it all down. And now I'm showing you options. So here's my little black frame that we had previously cut out. You can put a black frame on it, you can put a green frame on it, whatever color frame you want to put on it. You do not have to put a frame on it because it looks just fine without it. So now I'm over there fetching these other pieces. Technically, you could put that original front piece back in there and see, that's attractive too. I think, in my opinion, that looks kind of cool, just like that. But no, I wanted to open one as an actual dream catcher, so I'm going to take that inner part back out. You could also put different colors in there, depending on what you punched out, or die cut out, as the saying goes. And now we're going to use some of the art glitter glue on the black frame, and we're going to line that all up and stick it on there, and the front will be sort of done. It was after I put the front on and the back on that I pressed it under the book for a while. Now it's nice and dry. If you have edges that show through and it bothers you, that's if, you can take a black marker or ink or marker pen or paint or whatever makes you happy and try to color that in. Try being the optimal word, because it's kind of hard to get in there. Your best bet may be to ink that before you start weaving the thread and layering your pieces up. Now I have these Fiskars, however you want to pronounce it, rounders, and I rounded the bottom, and I have that lopping off corner Fiskars, and I have it, so I'm using it. And I've had it for years, and I will use it till it no longer uses. I also die cut some words. I wanted it to say sweet dreams, but I only had sweet in the one font and dreams in another total different set. So there we go. But I still made it sweet dreams, and it still makes me happy. And I decided I was going to round the little corners on that, so I'm using that teeny tiny rounder and going to just put some APG on there, art glitter glue, y'all. We're getting close to the end. We're sped up just a little bit now. I don't know if you can tell, but it's sped up. It's not real time anymore because I'm slow like a turtle. Here comes our sweet. Oh, sometimes it's hard to pick up when you cut your fingernails. Those little tiny words. Y'all ever have an issue with, is it saying sweet or sweat? Sweat dreams? I don't know. Could be in a sweat lodge. I mean, we are doing an Indian thing here. So now we're going to punch our hole for the top. And add my eyeball center. And I've got, we're going to ink. Oh, we're getting fancy, y'all. Fancy inking around the edge. Like I said, I only show you making the one, but I made like, I don't know, it feels like a million of them. This is not a bad project to do sitting in front of the TV, if you do that kind of thing. Alright? So we got inked it up. Okay, yes. Alright. Now we got some threads. I happen to have some eyelash thread that's got gold in it, and I used the same crochet cotton thread, the black, for this tassel-y part of the tag, and we're just wrapping it up, putting it through there, and going to pull it taut. Pulling each one taut. Tight. Tight! And there we go. What else are we going to do? Oh, the back is so empty. Let's put our name back there. Let's sign our work. So I sign a sort of sign with this stamp. It says APG Jamie, y'all. That's me. That's who you're watching. Artist poet girl Jamie. Photo montage. I appreciate each and every one of you. Your valuable time, your kind comments, your likes, your thumbs up, same thing. Your subscriptions, if you've not already done so, please take a moment to subscribe and click the bell for notification of new videos and live shows if you have your account set up for that. Thanks for watching and happy art, y'all!